Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back with again a little bit of a different type of video. Just gonna get under the covers. I have a heated blanket finally. Um, so I recently finished Far Cry 4. Now, if you're following my channel, you'll know that I also did a video on Far Cry 3. I haven't finished Far Cry 1 or 2 because just haven't gotten to really finishing them yet. Far Cry 3 is what I see is one of the most accessible in the series because one, you have to go through a lot of things to get it running on certain systems, and Far Cry 2, um, there's many mods out there to make it look a lot better, even though it's a pretty good looking game for when it came out, and still holds up in many ways, like the animations and the aesthetic. But I did want to do a video on Far Cry 4 because, in ways, Far Cry 4 kind of feels like DLC for Far Cry 3 in kind of the same way Blood Dragon does, where it's not related to the story at all. It just feels like kind of the same game, but with certain things fixed, certain things that look better, and basically an expansion. It expands what the third game was. And overall, I liked my experience with Far Cry 4 a little bit more than 3. Now, am I saying Far Cry 3 was bad? No. Um, if Far Cry 3 had ended after the first villain died, then I would say it's an 8 out of 10, but it's still 7 because the last part of the game was a big fucking slog. It was really slow at the end, and the end just felt like, oh, you beat the game, do more. And it was very unsatisfying. Both endings were kind of just okay, whatever. Um, but Far Cry 4, I think what makes it a lot different is the villain himself is well set up. You hear from him throughout the game. And I think the fact that they didn't try to shove two villains into one game actually was to this game's benefit. Because in Far Cry 3, you have Voss, who is a very enjoyable villain, uh, out of his fucking brain, insane, literally insane in the membrane. And I liked Voss, and I liked the performance of the actor. Would I say he's one of my favorite video game villains? No, but I enjoyed him. And then you get to Hoyt Volker, who is just kind of your normal, oh, cult leader type thing. And from what I've seen so far of Far Cry 5, it seems like we're doing that again, but I'll we'll see. But in Far Cry 4, you have the villain is Pagan Min, voiced by Troy Baker. Now, I don't know a ton about voice acting. I think Troy Baker knocked this out of the park. And I think he's a more interesting villain than Voss. And I know there's a lot of people that'll gang up on me for that because a lot of people love Voss. I still like Voss, don't get me wrong. But I do wish Voss was the main villain. Some people will say he is, and Hoyt is just kind of like your endgame villain. But I've never been really that big a fan of Hoyt. And again, Pagan Min is a lot more interesting because ultimately Pagan is not a villain in the very beginning. For all you know, going into this, he wants what's best for you, and well, you're trying to scatter your mother's ashes, and he wants you to do that and join him. Now, after you join him, you'd probably find out that you were joining a terrorist. But that I feel like that's a lot more interesting to have a villain who thinks that what they're doing is the right thing rather than a villain who is doing what they do because they like being evil. I find those villains usually very boring, forgettable, and I wish more movies had that type of villain because I find them more interesting. like the film I just reviewed, Mother's Day. That villain worked for me because Rebecca De Mornay didn't play it as like, oh, maniacal, that whole thing, except when she needed to. Except when she, like, these people started causing trouble. And then you realize that a lot of the stuff in the movie would have been avoided if they had just listened to this family. Some things would have happened regardless, but it would have turned out very different. Here, literally, you have one of. There's technically three endings. There's one at the very beginning where while you're sitting at a table eating with Pagan, um, Pagan goes off for a bit, and if you stay in that room for 15-ish minutes or 10-ish minutes, something like that, you get the ending where he takes you where you need to go, you scatter your mom's ashes, or you drop them off at a place, something, and then you get into a helicopter with them um as Should I Stay or Should I Go starts playing, and that song plays multiple times throughout the game, and I do like that song. Um, I, I think it's The Clash that did it. Somebody can correct me. Pretty sure it's The Clash, but very good song, and it works because the character is literally like, should I stay or should I go? As in, should he stay in the banquet hall or should he go? Which is how you go on to play the actual game. And at the very end, you get a couple choices. Both choices end in what you think the villain's downfall, but um, you basically get the same outcome. But this game, what it gets does better from the third. Um, First off, it gives you a lot more weapons in order to do stealth, and that's usually how I play these games. When I'm trying to capture outposts, I don't like going in all guns blazing because, again, it makes it a lot harder, and I'm not great at these games. But in the first game, you were kind of limited on silenced weapons, and in that game and this game, there's still the issue of if you miss one single shot at times, it'll alert the entire outpost, which I've always thought was a fucking annoying thing because you have to restart the checkpoint or whatever or die. And it gets really time consuming and annoying. But there's also um there's also the you get a lot more weapons that are, you know, um sorry, I'm drawing fucking blank here. You get a lot more weapons that have more customizability to them. You get a lot more sights on them. You get a lot more ones with silencers. You get a suppressed shotgun at one point in the signature weapon section. Now that might be DLC stuff. I don't know. I have the gold edition of the game, so I'm not exactly sure. But um there was a cool suppressed shotgun that I used quite a bit near the end. Um and I feel like the combat has been improved in this one. There are things that aren't as good as the third, but the combat feels a bit crunchier. I think the sound effects are a lot better, and it's a lot more satisfying to do the combat. While in the third, it would get kind of old at times, and I'd get kind of tired of just shooting people. This game does up the different types of missions that you can do. Because there's karate films missions where you can do like, oh, a race, or you can um, do a thing where you're going hunting and taking out this entire thing of animals because they're overpopulated or something. Or you have these golden path missions where you'll basically fly into the Himalayas and you'll either have to take out these people and bring back an artifact or something, or you'd have to go through the snow and keep killing enemies in order to get these oxygen tanks so you don't run out of oxygen. This game turns itself on its head quite often, and I give it a lot of credit for that because just when it feels like you're in a safe gameplay loop that's starting to get a little stale, it throws a little bit of a curveball your way. And it doesn't do it in the same way as the third, where it'll be like, okay, we're going to introduce this enemy that you literally can't stealth unless you have a certain thing on your upgrade tree. And I do want to talk about that because I've never liked upgrade trees. I've never liked upgrade systems where there are certain games where you can't do takedowns unless you've gotten enough upgrade points in order to take it down on your upgrade tree. I think that is one of the stupidest things a game could ever implement. And a lot of the time it's like, oh, basic things from a previous game on the upgrade tree. And I've never enjoyed that. You have to get to the very end of a certain one to do the chain takedown thing, which might have been in the third game. I forgot. I know the chain takedown thing was a thing, but um, another thing I really didn't use in this game that often was the hunting syringes, where you can use a syringe and it'll show you outlines of the animals in the area so that you can get the animals you need to craft certain items like a bait bag, or I mean in this game there's a bait bag, like an ammo bag, a loot bag, to get more storage for everything. I used them maybe once or twice. And in the third game I was using it constantly because so often the animals blended into the environment, and even though the third game is a bit more colorful than this game in that way, where it's a lot more lush, the animals were drab in the third game kind of looking. Like, mostly they blended into the environment, a lot of them. And it got really time consuming and annoying constantly trying to find the animals. So I would end up making like 10 syringes at once or something, and it would just take forever to find these animals. I never really got that in this game. I didn't really need to upgrade everything. The first thing I upgraded was the fucking holster thing so I could have four weapons because I hate having just like two weapons. Um, but what else could I talk about? Oh, the I didn't play both sides of the um because you get to choose two routes where you either work with Amita or Sandal or Sanjay. I can't remember the other guy's name, but you choose like it's like a husband and wife, I guess, a former husband and wife, and you choose between one of them, and then you get to play their mission. Um, and in response, you can't do the other person's mission. I thought that was a very interesting gimmick to the game. Um, I liked the helicopter thing, the little like tiny helicopter that you can ride in the air. That was cool. Um, you have a wingsuit, which was cool. I don't think that was in the third game. You still had the hang gliders in the third game, but the wingsuit I liked actually. I forgot if that was in the third game. Um, One useless thing that I literally never used was the auto drive mechanic, where you can get in certain cars and you if you it it was kind of a broken mechanic because you get into certain cars, you press the shift button on PC because I played it on PC. I've been playing these games on PC because I can't stand the console frame rate. It's terrible. Far Cry 4 especially went to like 20 frames at times, and I have a PS4 Pro. It should not be going to 20 frames, and the fact that it was on PS3 makes me terrified to see how well it runs on PS3. But um same with Far Cry 3. But the real the issue with auto drive is you can put a thing like a waypoint on your map and it won't go there. It'll just kind of go in a random direction unless you move it to the right direction. And it's ultimately just kind of a unneeded thing because most places that you need to drive to are less than like 500 meters away from you. So you can just drive there and it doesn't take that long, or you can fast travel to another place that's closer. So it's mostly just kind of an annoying, unneeded gimmick. Um, yeah, what else can I talk about? I liked some of the music that was used in the game. Um, like playing on the radio. In the third game, I recognized a couple of them. There was a dance song, Raison de Tradicional or something, that I've seen in a lot of memes and shit. In this one, I heard Kati Kalandal, which is I think I forget if it's a Bollywood song or a Tollywood. It's an Indian song that I remember hearing in Just Dance 2. Um, Fun dance, but yeah, I was like, is that Kati Kalandal? I know it's a weird thing for a white boy to be talking about, but still, I like the song. Um, and I really like the song that played when you're attacking um, pagans, stronghold. I liked the stronghold, the stuff. I found it very, while they were basically the same thing as the outposts, I did find it interesting trying to craft a way to get in um without the reinforcements coming in. And one thing I really do have to say about this game is, while the fire, and I did not use the flamethrower in this game nearly as much as I did the third, because the third and second games get the flamethrower so fucking right, and it is so much fun. One of the best missions in the third game was this one where you're hearing a Bob Marley song, like EDM remix, that was actually a pretty cool song, but you're burning down these like weed farms. That was one of the best missions in the third game. I wish there was a mission like that in this game, but the flamethrower kind of got nuked, and the only reason I can think of for the flamethrower being nuked in this game is so that it would be easier to port to other consoles, because I guess like an effect like that can be very taxing on the PS3 and the PS4 and maybe the Xbox. Maybe that was an Xbox 360 game, I don't know. But Xbox 360, Xbox One, it might have been a taxing thing, so they wanted to make it accessible to everything else. But it definitely was missed. I was definitely a little bit um sad to see it nuked a bit. But one thing I will say is the explosions were still a lot of fun. Whenever I'd One of my favorite things to do was when the reinforcements would come in and there'd be be a helicopter. I'd just take the one of the like LMGs, the the I don't know what LMG stands for, something machine gun, and I'd shoot at the pilot and then just watch the helicopter fall and explode, and it's so much fun. Like insanely fun to shoot down helicopters and cause explosions. Whenever there's an explosive barrel, I'm gonna shoot at it. But yeah, overall, Far Cry 4 is a pretty good improvement to the third game, in my opinion, because I know a lot of people love the third one. But again, for while it is quite a bit longer, it was noticeably longer. I don't remember exactly how long I played it for, but it was noticeably longer, and it never felt that way. I thought the story was a bit more interesting. It was a bit more consistent with its tone. Um, the main character wasn't annoying, like Jason, I think his name was in the third game, Jason Brody. And yeah, overall, just a really fun open world adventure game. So that was my review of Far Cry 4. Um, if you've played the game, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any movies you'd like me to review, put those down in the comments as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.